we're running with the stretcher with my mate John across. We just get opened up on by the Taliban from both sides, and the fucking rounds are pinging all by our feet, cracking straight past us. The winter spine, really hard. And they created 4 years ago, I think it was, they created an Arctic version, which is 293 miles. And I was dragging 40 kg of on a polk and a sled behind me. And when you're in the middle of the night, it's minus 38 and you're going down and you're trying to find a hut to get in for shelter. Like you just end up having to be on top of your shit like the whole time. They got hit by an IED with 2 casualties. As I come down into the river, another IED goes off and now they've got 5 casualties. Something's going off in my head. Dan, do not put your fucking foot down. I looked down, I could just see the faint edge of a pressure plate under my foot. Get my section commander's. He has a look and he's like, yep, that's a bomb.
Welcome to another episode of the Old Paratrooper podcast. But before we get started, I want to talk to you about our sponsors, Veterans for Veterans. If you left the military after 1987 and your hearing's taken a knock from your time in the services, click the link in this video. No win, no fee. See if you're eligible.
Hey, welcome to the Old Paratrooper podcast. I'm Dan Holder, former Royal Marine Reservist. I was on Herrick 12, 2010 with Charlie Company, 40 Commando. I was awarded the Bronze Star with Valour, point man, digging out bombs. I run a company called Atomic Rambo Coaching. I help veterans and I help people improve in positive psychology and I help people quit alcohol. I am an endurance athlete. I climb mountains around the world and I've recently just come second in the Arctic Spine race, 293 miles unsupported across the Arctic, and I'm the 7th person to ever finish.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come on, Dan. It's a real pleasure to have you. Again, list of accolades there, mate, which we will delve into a second. But what I'd like to do before we get started, firstly, thank you for taking the time to come on. And then secondly, what I'd like to do is just start at the beginning, whereabouts you're from, and ultimately what led you down the path you took in life. So yeah, whereabouts you from, Dan?
Yeah, I'm from Horsham in Sussex and lived in Brighton for a long time. Grew up, no dad, low income, that kind of thing. Did all right at school though, really good sportsman. Went to university. At Freshers' Fair, I saw someone I knew who was dressed in Royal Marines uniform. And he was like, "You still running, Dan?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Do you want to get paid for it?" and that's how I ended up in the Marines, basically. Did the training, loved it. And then as soon as uni finished, I went straight to 40 Commando full time. Joined.
So you kind of transitioned across into
only to go to war though.
Right.
So I joined the unit, went through all pre-deployment training, and then jumped in a troop, basically fighting troop, and then deployed on Herrick 12, 2010.
How was that? Because the Herrick tours, obviously there was a few where stuff didn't happen. Well, not didn't happen, but obviously some of them tours are quieter than others.
Yeah.
How was Herrick 12?
Oh no, mine was the really busy one.
Yeah.
It's the one that the Royal Marines lost the most blokes on.
Wow.
And I mean, there were a few of them, as you were just saying, but we had a super busy tour. We knew IEDs were going to be the issue going in, but it ended up being super kinetic as well, super close fighting, and getting blown up. And then the Yanks took over at the end, which just added another element of danger.
Yeah.
And
From them
also
and from the enemy,
danger and support, but they kind of go together. And it just made the whole thing pretty epic. And yeah, my troop, we lost 3 guys in my troop. We lost multiple attached ranks, Americans, interpreters. It was just super busy tour. And out the back of that, I then got quite bad complex PTSD as a result from losing friends and the things we did. And so,
it's those later tours. So the early tours sort of was more sort of, it was just conventional warfare when it was contacts, it was stuff. And then the IED risk as they went forward, obviously the Taliban adopted the IEDs and that kind of stuff, which is something you can train for, but you can't. They're the sort of things that, and they're nasty, aren't they? You know, guys totally unaware and they do a lot of damage. And
well, it was like
all that.
advance to ambush every day,
Yeah.
rather than advance to contact. And then, you know, if you thought you had the upper hand, you were normally being channeled or something. You know, there was normally a reason, or you couldn't just like take cover in a bun line or something.
Yeah, and it was a lot of that. Yeah, I was never on one of the Herrick ones. I did one of the early tours of Afghan in Kabul. I'm always completely honest, not kinetic really. There was a few incidents, but nothing like what you guys experienced in southern sort of Afghanistan.
Yeah, but you never know
Helmand.
what's going to happen, do you? I didn't quite expect what it was like. I didn't expect to get all that experience out the back of one tour, you know.
Yeah.
I was just an RMR lad going into a unit thinking, oh, here we go. And then next minute I'm point man, you know, in Sangin in the green zone, having a pretty wild time. So it's, you know,
it's
you don't expect those things, and you don't know really what to expect and what you're going to perform like or anything like that. And then next minute you're digging in with your eyelids.
Yeah, no, fair play, buddy. Fair play. I mean, I talk about this. I've touched on it a few times as well. And how was you received being a Royal Marine Reserved into the regulars? Because the reason I ask this is because, again, during my time, we had some guys from 4-para that came along and attached to regulars, 4 tours and stuff. Great lads, absolutely spot on. No, you know, majority, you didn't question their ability. They were up there and they did exactly what, you know, was asked of them. And, you know, but it's a difficult one, isn't it? Did you find any kind of resentment or any backlash for being a reservist to start with?
I think I definitely struggled a little bit at the beginning, just finding my feet.
Yeah.
But in general, I get on with pretty much everyone, and I had overall, I think the experience was good. I had no issues out the back of the tour. No one really questioned, you know, oh no, he's just an RMR lad. I've never had that afterwards. I can tell you that. And then, you know, in my troop, another point man died called John Crooks. He was a reservist as well, and he was one of the best soldiers in the troop. So it really quite quickly wasn't a thing. I was just always seen as just another Marine. I think at 40 Commando at that time, there were quite a lot of reservists, and probably there was a bit of difference. I think some guys had a harder time than others, and it just kind of depended on where you were and who you were with. And but in my experience, I had a really good overall experience with full time, like no dramas at all.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So
I
let's
just
talk
jumped
about.
in and I just got stuck in. Like I think that's all you can do, really.
Well, I think it boils down to the individual again, doesn't it? You know, you're willing to dig in, you know, be accepted. There is an element of you've got to probably work a little bit harder to kind of fit in. But if you're aware of that and, you know, your character, you go there with the right attitude. I think some people probably turn up with the wrong attitude, and that usually is half the battle, is being willing, getting stuck in, showing the blokes that you're more than capable, and then you'll be accepted. I think it's quite an easy thing to do, but not everyone gets it right, do they?
Yeah, and like the reserve training isn't that easy either. It's different but you have to be very self-motivated. So all the fizz, you have to basically get yourself to the level to do the commando tests and to be able to pass everything. Like you do, so I would say you're more self-reliant. So when it came to fizz and stuff like that, I just jumped straight in, and they were like I mean, as we'll probably talk about in a bit, my overall fitness is very good. and always was. And that helped a lot as well. You know, I jumped in on Troop Fizz and that, and they're like, fucking hell, who's this guy? You know, and that really helped as well. I think not being someone who's shit really does help. And I'd say for anyone as a reserves, like, work hard, because when you turn up, like, the lads are strong. You know? But reserve training isn't easy either. And I think some things you fall down a bit on, like, you do lack some training, I believe. When I turned up, I'd say my weapon, I had good, you know, SA-80 skills and stuff like that, but my experience with every other weapon system was lacking compared to some of the lads. And that was just because it's hard to fit everything in RMR training to the level that they had, I would say. You pass all the shooting tests and stuff like that, but I wasn't around the weapon systems all the time. And I think that makes a big difference when you're deploying.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I think what doesn't get highlighted enough, and I try and highlight it, is because you're doing the military as a hobby. I know that sounds a bit a corny way
no,
of
I
putting
agree.
it, but you've got a full-time job. You're trying to fit in something. And I always say I've got utmost respect for, I say it the same with retained firefighters as well. You know,
Yeah.
the guys that have normal jobs and they live within 5 minutes of a station, the beeper goes off, they rush to the station, and then they might be out all night and then go to work the next day. And I'm a bit like, not enough respect's given to them to basically highlight the fact that they hold down normal jobs. They're not just a full-time soldier or a full-time firefighter. They are doing it in their spare time. So I couldn't do it. I tried 4-para for a bit. I'm completely honest. I did it for about a year and I couldn't make the commitment. I had too much going on.
Yeah.
On a weekend as well. I was a bit like, on a Friday, right, I'm going to have to travel to Leeds, to Pudsey. And I was a bit like, just done a week at work. I'm dead honest about it. So hats off to anyone that does that for a sustainable amount of time and
Yeah.
then certainly puts themselves forward to then go and do an operational tour with a bunch of regular soldiers. It takes some balls to do, pal. So hats off to you for that.
Yeah, and they and the lads in my troop and the boss and my sergeant and Dan Smith and that, they were great. Like, you know, I can't say, like, you know, they were great guys. Like, there was no drama, and we all worked together to do the best we could in really difficult situations. So, um, you know,
No, fair play,
overall,
buddy.
I'd
Fair
say
play.
the experience is good, mate.
No, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, talk to me about. I want to delve. I didn't know this about you until you sent me your kind of bullet point bio, and straight away I was like, right, we need to talk about that. So, talk me through being awarded a Bronze Star, not the actual award ceremony, because I imagine that's pretty straightforward, but how you kind of the events that led up to kind of,
Yeah.
you know, what you did to achieve that. Because it's quite, there's not many people that have got it, have they?
No, I don't actually know, but when I got it, um, in the write up, it said I was the 6th person to get one. I think I really don't know, because I'll be honest, it's hard to find out. There isn't much information out there. I've never seen anyone else with one. I know one other person who's got one, who's an
A
officer.
British soldier being awarded a Bronze
I
Star
know
for
a
it.
lieutenant colonel who's got one. I don't know. I've never been able to find anyone who's not an officer who's got one.
Mm.
uh, I'm seem to be the only one, and the only one who's in that time frame. But I could be completely wrong, and it's really hard to find out.
Yeah, no worries.
But
But how did it come about?
so I got it for 2 different incidents. One, we had a patrol out on the ground. I was in a small patrol base, and they got hit by an IED with 2 casualties. So I came out as QRF. So quick reaction force, we've come out to basically assist in the casualty evacuation. But on the way, I'm point man, and on the way in, I've got to cross a river. There's a compound the other side, and then they're behind this compound in like an area that's been blown up. So there's a load of small, like 2-foot walls of an old compound that's been blown up by a 500-pound bomb. They've been hit in there. As I come down into the river, another IED goes off, and now they've got 5 casualties, and they're only like a multiple. So they got 5 casualties. I think there was 14 guys on the ground, and they got 5 casualties. See, and like we all know, guys in the military, how many people it takes to CASEVAC. Like they're in trouble. So I come down in the river, over the other side, up the bank, and then I get to a wall. I come along the wall, and then as I go round to turn round the corner, I go to step around, and something's going off in my head, like Dan, do not put your fucking foot down. I look down, and just under, I could just see the faint edge of a pressure plate under my foot. I'm like an inch off. Take my foot back. I get my section commanders next to me. I'm like, come and have a look at this. He has a look and he's like, yep, that's a bomb. So I turn around, we get back in the river, and the problem is that they just seem to dig in everywhere. And whether they were real devices or even if they'd just been digging to make you, like, you just don't know. They were fuckers, and they were clever. And me and the other point man found 2 more devices in the banks with grenades on, in the banks of the river. I've had to then come back again and just basically take like an angle up the bank through a couple of trees to then get to where everyone is. We get to where everyone is, mate, and it's just fucking carnage. You've got 2 guys who are not going to make it, blown up. You got 1 guy in a bomb crater who's got bad injuries to face, hands, that kind of thing. Another guy, and 2 of these guys are from my troop. Another guy's got blast injuries all to his back and up his legs, and really bad. And another guy's got an arm injury. And then my mate, the RMR lad, who's definitely not going to make it, but he's still alive. We get him on a stretcher and we take him out through the route that I've made across a field to where the next QRF is, to then pick up the casualties and take them to Jackson, which is the main base, to then get CASEVAC'd. As we're running with the stretcher with my mate John across, we just get opened up on by the Taliban from both sides.
Fuck.
And the fucking rounds are pinging all by our feet, cracking straight past us as we're running. And then I unload him, and then I go back and I do 4 more runs. Well, sorry, 3 more. I do 4 casualties on stretchers. The last guy, another friend of mine who's got really bad blast injuries, I have to stick him on a ladder, and a couple of us are like trying to get him out because we've run out of stretchers. But the whole time, the rounds were so close, and I don't know how the fuck no one else got hit. It was just one of them. We get all the casualties out, and then we have to fight Taliban for another couple of hours afterwards until we ended up calling in air to support. But that, yeah, so we had two KIA, 1 American, 1 British, my friend John, and then 3 bad injuries as well, all in one sitting. So that's the first thing I got the medal for, was creating the route that got everyone out. And not, if I'd stepped on that would have been probably another 3 casualties, maybe 4 on top of the 5, and it would have turned a really shit day into a really, really shit day. So that's the first thing. Then the second was the tail end of the tour, and the day before so I spent a bit of time climbing trees and cutting tree lines down just outside of Jackson, just so the tower for fire support, they had better arcs, because the Taliban kept coming along the rivers, hiding behind the trees, and they could get quite close. So I spent a load of time cutting trees down under fire. This was another typical day. I've gone out, only just outside of Jackson, climbed some trees. But when I was up the trees, I looked down and I could see all the bombs dug in on an alleyway. because like when you're elevated, it's a lot more obvious where they are. And I could see in the river, there was a load of wires in the river as well. Now, what those wires are attached to, I don't know. And I never wanted to find out. But I reported it back and they were like, "Oh, Dan, do you fancy going out again tomorrow?" And I was like, "Oh, what for?" No, we got a specialist bomb disposal, American USMC bomb disposal guy coming. He's a bit of a legend. Can you go out with him and show him all the bombs that you found when I was up the tree? And I was like, all right. Anyway, I meet him in the morning. Nice enough guy. But he's like, look, take me out, show me where they are. You provide me cover. I had 2 other lads with me. Provide me cover and I'll just start defusing the bombs. And it was him and his number 2. Now, I'd heard reports of this guy the day before, and he was with my mountaineering partner. He was with my mountaineering partner the day before, pulling IEDs out the ground, literally pulling them and being like, just throwing them. So I knew he was pretty loose,
to say the least.
Yeah, and we're literally 30 to 50 meters outside the base. That's it. That's how close they managed to dig in bombs.
That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah. And so anyway, we go out on this little patrol. We've got overwatch from my guys. They're on a wall 50 meters away, just watching us. There's an alleyway, there's a river, then my guys. And on the other side is a Taliban orchard that they used all the time to sneak up on us with a murder hole. And I'm like, my fucking radar is going off. The whole situation just didn't feel that good. Then he has a bit of a go at me, like, don't trust your metal detector. And I said to him, look, I've been here like 6 months now. I found a lot of bombs, like a lot. And all those bombs I found with my eyes, not with the metal detector, because I recognized ground sign pretty well by then. Anyway, I explained that. He didn't really listen to me. I said to him, look, are you sure this is a good idea? We're super channeled. We could be snuck up on. I'd already pinged 4 IEDs up the alleyway that you could obviously see where they've been dug in. There were multiple wires in the river. There were IEDs in the banks of both sides of the river. And he was like, no, it's fine. We'll be fine. So anyway, he starts digging away. And literally within not even 5 minutes, he's fucking his IDs out. He's sniffs. He's pulled a jug out the fucking ground, a metal jug with HE in it. And I reported back to the boss. Yeah, he's got a metal jug with a low metal content pressure plate. So he's done it. And I was like, fucking hell, it's pretty impressive. And then he's like, right, I'm moving to the next device. His guy's the other side of the path. So there's one of them's on the left-hand side of the path. One of them's on the right-hand side. They're kind of moving up together. He moves up to the next device. I'm like 5 meters away. And he just fucking gets blown up. I get blown back onto my ass. Obviously, I'm laying on the deck with my ears ringing and fucking everything's going off. Look at myself, pat myself down, have a good old look, and I'm like, fucking hell, I'm all right. There's nothing on me, no damage at all. Switch my metal detector on, and I remember the lights going doo, 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 like coming on, and just looking at that, and then all the fucking shouting starts and screaming and all that shit that goes on with it. I get up, check behind me. The lads are like just getting up as well. They're fine. Everyone's obviously a bit shocked. I look at his number 2, and his number 2's just like going around everywhere, obviously in shock and just screaming like, where's my mate? Where's my mate? So I get hold of him because there's fucking bombs everywhere. Get hold of him, stick him behind me, and then I talk to the lads on the wall saying like, can you see anyone? Because I can't see him. Like he's got, like literally gone. Can't see a thing. And one of the lads is like, I can see what looks like a rag doll. And I'm like, there he is. We found him. He's like 30 meters away. He's been blown from where I was across the river and hit a wall. And he's just at the bottom of the wall. Then now I'm fucking worried because as soon as the bomb goes off, the Taliban normally try and ambush you like what happened before. And we've got this murder hole next to me. I've got this fucking orchard that they use all the time. So then I'm like looking at where the guys are and I'm like, right, how am I going to get from here across? And basically I create a snake. I've got my weapon counted off to the right just in case they do start shooting at me from the murder hole. And I just snake my way around like four or five devices. And they just follow me exactly where I go. I get them up the bank. They put a ladder down. It's like 30 meters. It's only like 30 meters, but there's like devices everywhere.
Yeah.
Get them to where the lads are, get the guys out behind me, and then I look down the wall where he's hit the wall, and I'm like, right, I'm going to go and get him. But my stripey, who's a legend, is like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'll go and get him, otherwise someone else has got to risk themselves to get him. And he's like, dude, let's just worry. Like, he's not alive. Like, and you still are. You've done enough. And I just get up the ladder and fuck off. But and that's the second thing I got it for, was just basically keeping my head together when it was a bit shit. Getting the rest of the lads out. But I was a bit, by that point, because those two instances were like a bit of a regular occurrence. So although I got the medal for that, I had no idea what I got when the letter came through, which was a year later. I had no idea. But when the letter came through, I had no idea what it's for, because this stuff happened all the time.
Yeah.
So when people were like, oh, you must have known you were getting a medal, I was like, you have absolutely no idea, because we were in contact all the time. I've been blown up. It wasn't the first time I've been close to being blown up. I've been shot at a lot, done a lot of fighting. So you don't really know. It's only because the Americans give you a proper citation that I know what I actually got it for. But that's what I got the medal for.
That's mental. Well, both them incidents again, like you say, I've heard countless stories from guys in southern Afghanistan, and like you say, on certain tours, shit was happening every single day.
Yeah.
So it's hard sometimes to pinpoint what particular incident, but that just sounds and to keep your head. I think that's the biggest thing that you can take away from that, is because people that have never been in them. Now, I have been in some circumstances. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've been in circumstances like that, Dan, because I haven't. I've had some bits and bobs, but the key is to obviously to keep composure, trust your training, and everything else. That's easier said than done when you're surrounded by multiple fucking IEDs and the risk of being ambushed because, it's just to get your head round. And there will be people that can't comprehend, people that have never been in those situations, that won't be able to comprehend what you kind of went through and what your kind of multiples and, your sections.
The normally there's like 2 point men and me and another lad. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he'd be all right with it, but he had to do this shit all the time as well. It was never ending. And we lost 2 point men in my troop as well. So it's, we're just getting blown up and shot at a lot. So it's one of those jobs then on that tour that, it didn't matter where you were in the patrol, you're getting hammered, whatever, but it was a bit dicey.
Yeah. Would you say, and this is a bit of a difficult question to ask, but would you say in hindsight, you enjoyed doing it when you were there?
Yeah, 100%. That's not a hard question. I think I liked the simplicity of it.
Yeah,
I had
I hear
one
that
job.
a lot.
I had one job, and I hear people say that a lot. We had one job, and I just wanted to do that job well, and that's what I did. I just tried to keep the lads safe. I tried to save people where I could, and I fucked up the Taliban as much as I could when we had the chance. That was what we were doing. It's simple, and you had one job and that was your life and that's it. And that's how I treat like that race I just did. That's how I treated that. I'm here. I may as well give it my best. All I got to do is move from A to B and stop myself from getting frostbite or, look after myself. And sometimes I did enjoy the simplicity of the job. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a fucking dangerous job and there's a lot to it, but I enjoyed that part of it. And I think a lot of guys do too.
Yeah, I do hear the same a lot. And I think there's a lot to be said with not overthinking it, because we're all guilty of overthinking certain things. But
Yeah.
the risk is, and I liken it to firefighting. When you you look back at what your job is as a firefighter, you got a house on fire, you've got to put it out and rescue people. That is it. Regardless of all the SOPs and all the kind of stuff that you do and everything else, that is, simplest terms, what you do. It's the same as being a soldier. You're going out, your task that day is to go on a patrol, look for this, get in a firefight or whatever. It's simple, but it's easy to overthink. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It was just, and it was a way of coping too, I think. Just simplifying everything. Because if you did think too much about, especially when you're there, like, why are we here? I mean, don't get me wrong, that was spoken about, but you just had to get on with what you were doing. Talk up when you needed to if you thought things were stupid. I love the Marines for that. I still, to this day, I still talk to my boss and Stripey, and I still talk to my colonel. I could talk to them in any capacity if I felt there was an issue or I felt something was too dangerous or it could be done another way. There was never an issue. They were always willing to listen. And that I loved about the group of guys I was with.
Signs of good leadership again, Dan.
Fantastic. Yeah.
We talk about, I talk about leadership quite a bit, purely from the I've seen very, very good examples and I've seen very, very poor examples. And I think for me, and now I'm no expert on leadership and I don't do talks on leadership and stuff like that, but from my experience, what makes a good leader, one of those qualities is the ability to accept information from people that may not have as much experience or are a lesser rank. Because just because they are a lesser rank or they don't have that experience doesn't mean that they've not seen something. They've got eyes. They've got their own experiences. And for you, like, was you involved in the tree surgery stuff before you were a Royal Marine?
A little bit, yeah.
So it's like I say, so they're like, why would they send someone out to start cutting trees down that wasn't a tree surgery? So it's like identifying.
Yeah, and I think because I was that kind of like that helped with me pinging the IEDs. Like I worked outside a lot. I know a lot about ground trees. I know how people use the ground and stuff like that. And that really helped. And that wasn't from the military. That was from me growing up.
Yeah.
And they knew that. And that came out, within, I wasn't a point man to begin with. I was carrying ECM Blue, like the killer.
Yeah.
But I quickly started finding stuff and noticing things. And then that's when I was given the Valour and made a point man.
Yeah, well, again, they've highlighted like your life skills or what you're good at,
Exactly,
and again, signs of good leadership. There is recognizing that and using your skills to the best of your ability. That doesn't always happen, and I always it's a bit different. I always there's a story. I was at a roof fire with an aerial ladder platform. The roof was on fire, and I've got this guy who was a retained firefighter outside of me, and I'm instructing him how to remove the roof tiles off this roof so we can get water in. And he's putting, and I just happened to turn to him and go, "Oh, what do you do as a civvy job?" Because he's a retained firefighter. Obviously, I was a full-time firefighter. And he went, "Oh, I'm a roofer." And I went, "Why the fuck am I telling you how to remove roof tiles?" I went, "You just do what you do." I was unaware, you know what I mean? And I use that as an example of these, you're going to come across guys that have got all sorts of skills that you can utilize,
I've got a mate who is on Herrick 14 who is a reservist, and they didn't have a clue what he was until a lad got injured and they realized he is like high-end paramedic, and he just went into overdrive and he ended up being like the medic for everyone. But no one asked. He was there just to be a soldier and get on, but he ended up doing med like across like a whole unit because of it. But he is fantastic. And you know, that's an example of people being like, oh fuck, didn't realize he was like this. And
yeah. And it's like I say, it's utilizing people's skills to the best of the ability, and they come in all shapes and sizes. They come in all sort of areas, and it's just, I say, good leadership, utilizing what people are good at, and putting them in them positions. And it to us sat here now, Dan, it seems like just a commonsensical thing to do, but it doesn't happen as often as people may think. You know,
I ran a biggish tree. I had like 15 guys run a tree surgery company for a long time. I sold it like 4 years ago. And one of my points is that no, it doesn't matter what position you are, everyone talks. And I listen to the guys all the time. It's one of the reasons where we had a great group of guys, because anyone could say anything. And, you know, sometimes I might not have been interested in what they're saying, but I'd always listen. And it made a huge difference. And the environment was all right. It wasn't a case of, you know, oh, what he says goes. It was all right if other people had different opinions.
absolutely,
there's just nothing wrong with it. And in an environment like war, like, it's difficult, and you don't know what other people have experienced in life. And I do genuinely believe that people need to understand. You know, you want to get to know people as best as you can to know what their strengths and weaknesses are. Which is a big part of my work, is helping people to understand what their strengths are and play into their strengths, rather than, you know, constantly trying to improve on all aspects. And sometimes you just want to fucking nail down on what you're really good at so that you can start progressing straight away. And it's one of the reasons I picked the race I did, because I know what my strengths are, and that race is my strengths, and that's why I wanted to do it, rather than, oh, you know, this is going to be stupid hard or impossible, thinking you're going to be all right, but you're probably not.
But
running,
I think
running 300 miles is...
Yes, it's a bit cheeky, mate. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. It seems like a bit of an extreme thing to do. We'll get on to that in a second.
Yeah.
So that tour obviously sounded like a rough tour. And you know, I was aware. I'm aware of the Herricks, and you know, of guys that have been on them and certain tours, and I was aware that the Royal Marines lost a lot of guys on that tour. And you know, when you hear about these, I mean, I'd been out quite a while by then. I was doing different stuff, but I'd heard of them tour. I kept track of the tours, especially the
it was always on the BBC, wasn't it?
Yeah, especially the tours that Power Edge went on, and the Royal Marines, because I had friends that I'd worked with the Royal Marines, so I keep an eye on this, and with some of the rifles tours and stuff like that. And when you hear about you know, that tour, you just sit there and you think, fucking hell, they're having a rough time a bit. And a bit of envy had creep in as well, weirdly. That's the weird bit in it. Because you're hearing about these soldiers doing this horrible thing where people think, fuck that, I don't want to be there. But from a veteran's point of view, he's like, fuck, I could have been on that. And it's a weird one, isn't it?
And then it's just like being careful what you wish for, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
You know, I in terms of experience, the tour I had is fantastic in terms of military experience and what all the things I got to do. It came at a cost too. So, you know, I don't regret it, and I wouldn't change it for anything apart from losing the guys. The actual experience and what I did, I wouldn't change it for anything. And I'm the person I am now because of I went for it. But I do say to especially I talk to young guys quite a bit that join the military, or guys that were in who didn't do a lot, and some guys struggle mentally with that equally. And I say, you know, count your luck, like, you just don't know what you're going to get, so just accept it for what it is. It's you know, it's fine. I went and did that, and that is what happened. I'd never expected to get the medal I got. I never expected to get complex PTSD either. So, you know, it's just
that is a saying that, you know, be careful what you wish for and stuff. And you know, you never know what's going to happen. And you know, you could have come away from them tours with limbs missing and life altering injuries as well. Exactly. So you've got to look at it and take it away. And in a way, you have come across. So that brings us on to the kind of
Yeah.
PTSD and stuff. And when did you realize that that was sort of prominent? Was there a particular moment when you thought, right, I'm fucked here?
I knew I wasn't great, just because, I mean, I didn't expect to be okay, to be honest, because it was, you know, I remember going to and I know you've spoken about this before, the trim sessions. So you'd be involved in like an incident and you go to a trim session, right? I've been to so many trim sessions. I remember the stripey running it being like, fucking hell, Dan, you back again? And I'm like, yep. And I spoke to him years later and he was like, dude, you were in so many incidents, like the likelihood of you not being effective is so low. You know, I was in so many deaths, so many really badly injured, you know, like I just happened to be there a lot of the times. It was just unlucky. But when I realized it was bad was after I got the medal. So when I was drinking too much, definitely, when I got back. Just so I didn't have to think about things too much. But when I got the medal, then I was going to champagne dues and getting all that and all kinds of things in London. But I was having my citation read out every time.
Yeah.
And my citation, I sent it to you, is about my mates dying. And I had to relive it over and over and over again, and everyone blowing smoke up your ass. But the reality for me was I was just reliving the same thing over and over again. And then out the back of that, I started getting flashbacks every day. Then I was getting night terrors and I was just, screaming at night or shouting or whatever. And that obviously then I realized I was in a bit of a bad way. And then it was I went back to my RMR unit and no one had a clue what I'd been up to at all. Like they just thought I'd been on, like most lads, I'd gone on a tour. It was a cheeky tour. They knew a lot of guys died, but no one really said much about it. And I never really needed to explain. It was only when one of my mates who I ski with every year was like, damn, what happened on that tour? And I told him and I was like, is that not normal? And he's like, no, not really. And then we were on a piss up and then they were like, they realized I wasn't behaving great, I'd say, being a bit of a dick, getting agitated, and then they were like, I think there's something up here. And then that's when I started talking to people, and then the wheels got in motion. And in the end, I ended up leaving rather than commit to the military for like long term. Because I decided it was either stay in and progress or do different things and stuff like that, which would have been great. And I was a good soldier and did well, or sort myself out now, get the ball rolling, sort myself out and have a different life. And that's what I decided to do. I got some good advice. I was going on the SF briefing course, SB. I spoke to my sergeant major and he's like, one, you've already done most things that people want to do. And two, who do you want to be when you're 40 years old? It's like, and I didn't want to be the road I was going. I hands down didn't. And I'm so pleased even now. I still speak to him, but I'm so pleased he had that chat with me because it was the right avenue for me, was to go on and do other things,
Yeah.
And I still don't regret that at all. It was one of the best decisions I made.
Yeah, and I get it, because from a soldiering perspective, what more can you do other than SF really? And if you're already struggling, not struggling
Yeah.
like that, but you've already seen a lot. like we all have the, you know, the analogy about the glass being full and overfilling, and everyone's different with that. So you've done what you set out to do. You obviously wanted to go on a tour. You went on a tour. It turned out to be one hell of a tour. You've done everything really with the Green Army soldiering that you
Yeah.
could do,
Yeah.
you know. So it's like, where do you go next? Do you go down the SF route, or do you leave and then you go and experience different things? Now, I'm a big believer in, like, I have regrets. I look back with this certain stuff I wish I would have done, but at the same time, I'm glad I've had multiple experiences in life and I'm not just one thing, because you could just end up becoming, I don't know, sort of almost sterilized to the outside world and be that thing. And I think it's good that you've gone on to do the different stuff. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I come, two members of my family who were in SAS. I'm not, I never actually had that burning desire and need to go in special forces, because I also know the reality of it as well. So
Yeah.
it's not, they're not around. Like they were dead. They were dead before I was in the military. But I also have that understanding of, it's not just the be all and end all of being a soldier and everything as well. So yeah, I don't regret it at all.
The interesting thing that you kind of, one of the interesting things you said there as well is what we know now, and it's weird. And I do say this a lot because I think it's massively important, is I used to see a lot of guys when we go out on the lash that were these social hand grenades. And I think I fell into that bracket for a period of time as well, where I go out, I get in the shit, your nights on the piss would just be complete carnage, scrapping, doing stupid shit, kicking off, doing this, coming back there, and then waking up going, oh, that was a midnight. Looking back now, I wonder whether they're like almost, really prominent points that, that you are struggling, but it was just accepted, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And boozing's was a big part. Yeah. I mean, it was a bit, I grew up drinking. So university was drinking, Royal Marines was drinking, that was just part of my life that didn't really help me, but it helped me to mask the actual issues and things I needed to deal with.
Yeah, it's good for
and
that.
I've dealt with all that now, but it just took a long time to sort out. And I don't drink. I haven't drunk for a long time. And magically, life, PTSD issues and things like that really became non-existent once I fully quit drinking and left it all behind. And and also magically I started doing all the things I actually wanted to do. Like the big races and big expeditions and all that stuff I do, that all came, and actually achieving a lot of stuff came after I quit drinking.
Yeah.
It's just with identity, a lot of us identify with that, that drinking side of the culture, and like.
Well, you do end up with a lot of peer pressure into it as well. It's like, oh, the lads are going out on the lash. What do you do? It's like, well, I'll go and tag along, and then you get kind of. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say I took a lot of roping into it, Dan. It was,
No, I mean, yeah, it wasn't
was
like
at the
that.
forefront. Yeah, twist my arm, but I was up for it as well. But it's only now that I look back, like I say, and I see these people that go out and be in the shit all weekend and literally come back pissed to bed and be in a complete state, and then you think there's probably, and I know it was funny at the time. It was like, oh, it's just such and such. That's just the way he is, but it probably wasn't just the way he is. It's probably a sign that,
No,
these people are struggling.
yeah, and I mean, I've worked with veterans for like 7 years now in multiple capacities, trying to help them improve or quit drinking and lots of different things. And one of the themes is, and it's the same for me, absent fathers, bad childhoods. A lot of it it's like a constant theme that I hear, and there's a real correlation with childhoods like that, and then either having PTSD or bad issues with drink and drugs, and one of my mates makes a good point that sometimes it's got nothing to do with the military at all. They
No.
would have been in the shit whether, and I probably would have, I reckon. I might have been in the shit. I might have been in the shit whether I went in the military or not. It's, can't
Yeah.
all blame it all on the military. Sometimes it just speeds it up or
Yeah.
or highlights it quicker.
Yeah. That's true. I think a lot of things result back to childhood and stuff, and
Yeah.
this sort of triggers, and whether you're around like-minded individuals that do speed up that process, it's a difficult one. But what I do know is, obviously, there's a lot of people out there, kind of like yourself, doing stuff to raise that awareness and kind
Yeah.
of get these points out, stuff that's not been highlighted before, and it keeps getting highlighted. And I make no apologies for highlighting it and repeat myself on the podcast, because if it drives home the point and makes people understand or reach out, then it can only be a good thing,
I know. I can't remember the guy's name that you had on recently. The lad that he made the coloring books after.
Ted Shirley.
Yeah, and he made, when I went to doctor, got diagnosed and all that, I was told the same thing as him, like, you are fucked, mate. Forever. Like, you're going to suffer with this forever. You're not, it's just going to be it was a long process anyway to sort yourself out. But what I will say to people is, you are not fucked. You're 100% not fucked. It's not going to be easy, and you've got to do a lot of work, and there's a lot of things you've got to do, and it's a process. But my God, coming out the other side, like, it's just ended up being a massive strength for me. I've gone on to do so many things that I probably wouldn't have done if I didn't have the PTSD. It's like, it's not some life sentence. It's something you can reframe in your mind to be something that is genuinely fantastic. Like, I get to work with amazing people all the time. I don't just help military people, I help all sorts of people, and get to work with fantastic people because of what I went through. Like, it's not.
There's an element there though as well that you've got to, and you maybe agree with me, but your character and your makeup will play a big part in that, because
100%.
not everyone has that drive, that resilience, but I believe it's in a lot of soldiers, a lot of veterans, because that's why we kind of gravitate to this. But it's kind of utilizing and channeling, and it's almost seeing fight, like you've said perfectly before, and we highlighted, play into your strengths. So you got to work out what you can, if your strength's mental resilience, you can push through and you can do this. Your character's this, and it's just about figuring yourself out. And I think that comes with an element of age and wisdom and experience as well.
100%, yeah. It's easy to sit here now saying all this at 38.
Yeah.
But when I was 21, 22,
no idea.
I didn't have the mental capacity then. I had the mental capacity to do what I did, but it didn't have the mental capacity to think outside and long term, and
Yeah. No,
so I completely agree with that. And when people give young people shit and stuff like that, I think, fucking hell, we didn't have it together, did we?
No, fucking. I mean, I've still not got it together now at 46. I'm trying.
Any of us?
We're cuffing it, mate. I say it all the time. What we do well is we cuff it really well. Everyone to the outside, they're like, he's got his shit together. Have I fuck? But no. So that brings us on to a kind of the what you're really known for now, with your socials and stuff, and the stuff that you do. So you went down the route of doing kind of, in the mountains, endurance events to help veterans raise that awareness and everything else. So tell us about how that came about, and tell us about your experiences with the different mental stuff that you've gone and done.
So really, my best mate from Marines, Kev, started climbing. I'd done quite a bit of climbing anyway, and then we just started doing small trips. So we went to Russia. I say small; they're not that small. We went to Russia. We'd done all the Wales and winter climbing in Scotland and all the usual route, and then we started doing high mountains basically. But we most years will go on a trip to somewhere in the world, and we do full alpine, we carry everything, no guides, and we go and do big mountains all over the place. So, 2024, I did Denali. Last year, I went to Alpamayo in Peru, Mont Blanc, Elbrus. I went to Kyrgyzstan. We did a mountain there. We go and do kind of mountains where some of them there's a few people on, but there's rarely any queues or anything like that, and it's a bit more alpine style. It's harder. Like at altitude, when you have to do all the thinking yourself, is pretty difficult. I've been in trouble with altitude, but I'm not as good as him genes wise at altitude, so I have to take it a bit slower and be sensible. And sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. So we do a lot of trips like that. Then I got back into, when I quit drinking, I wanted to do an Ironman. So that's actually originally why I quit drinking, because I wanted to do an Ironman. Within a year of quitting drinking, I'd done an Ironman. Then I did another one. I always do Ironman Wales just to check how. I don't particularly train for it because I train for bigger events, but I use it as part of my training to see how my mind is. Because the good thing about Ironman is you're not like fantastic at every event. I'm all right at the running. I'm not a bad swimmer. I'm pretty shit on the bike. So I have it's always a bit of a suffer fest, but I enjoy it. So I do that every year. And then the big endurance events, like the one I've just done. So I do some big ultras, 100 milers, 100 Ks. And now I've just done the Arctic Spine race, which is one of the hardest races in the world, which took for me, it was like, that was a proper Royal Marines wet dream. if you're a bit of like an ML savage. So Nordic skiing, I ended up not skiing most of it because the boots destroyed my feet, and I ended up switching just to a pair of like running boots, basically. But that race is properly savage, and it's
So
quite
just
tough.
describe to us what it is for the people, because I didn't know about it until I started
Yeah.
talking to you,
So
and then
there's
I
a
talked about
spine.
it with my mates and bosses, and they were like, "Oh shit, that's massive," and I was like, "What is it?"
Yeah, so there's a spine race in the UK. There's 260 miles. And that's known as like one of the hardest races in the UK. The Winter Spine, really hard. And they created 4 years ago, I think it was, they created an Arctic version, which is 293 miles. I don't know what the exact elevation is, but it's either 11,000 or 13,000 meters of elevation through the mountains in northern Sweden on a trail called the King's Trail. It's called the Kungasland Trail. And it basically goes from north to south for 300 miles, over mountains, across lakes, all kinds of different terrain. Obviously, it's in the winter in the Arctic. It was minus 38 for most days. I think it got into the minus 40s at one point. It's cold. But the big thing about that race is there's tight cutoffs. Like, it's not like you can just rock up and as long as you can do the distance, you're going to do it. There's checkpoints along the way, and the cutoffs are pretty tight. If you don't make them, you're out of the race. And I booked onto that race because only 5 people had finished it ever. And I thought, well, if I'm going to test myself, it may as well be something that's fucking nails. And it was. But luckily I finished it. But yeah, that race is savage, like truly savage, but in like a fantastic way. It's beautiful. You're going across mountains, amazing lakes, and that's what I mean. When in the Marines, I went to Norway a few times doing training. I was always super strong in Norway, and I just wanted to test myself to see how far I could actually go in that environment and whether I could look after myself well enough. And the admin was a massive thing.
So I was going to say self-supported then as well, yeah.
Yeah, there's checkpoints and there's med teams at the checkpoints, but yes, I mean it is a self-supported race.
And do you get like, are you camping out yourself and sorting out your own?
There's
And what are
hut,
the legs like? How many legs are there?
yeah. So there was hut 1, hut 2, checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3, and checkpoint 3.5. You can't sleep at any of those checkpoints. You could go in and get hot water, but between those checkpoints, I think the minimum distance between checkpoints was 75k.
Right.
On one of them was 100k, and I was dragging 40 kg of on a poke and a sled behind me, which obviously you're not going to be running like I'm going as quick as I can, but you can't achieve running pace. So it takes quite a while to go between those legs. So you end up camping out. Well, I mean, you end up camping out most of the time. There are some huts along the way, which there was normally a big group of huts because it's a summer route that a lot of people do. But in the winter, they normally leave one hut unlocked. There were 2 times I tried to find a hut that was unlocked and I just never found it. And when you're in the middle of the night, it's minus 38 and you're going down and you're trying to find a hut to get in for shelter. Like you just end up having to be on top of your shit like the whole time. And it just catches people out, I think.
Yeah, it sounds. I'm not going to lie to you. It sounds quite cheeky.
It was cheeky. It was the two lads came in behind me, both ex-military. They're the type of guy I like said this aside. They're the type of guy, you know, when you look at someone, 2 guys, you're like, fuck, they're like uber strong blokes. You know, like proper powerhouses. They made like just over 200 miles and then DNF'd. But I was going against guys like that, and it was just good to actually compete in something that big against guys who are fucking nails. Like the guy that won Bjorn, just like proper Viking, amazing Nordic skier. It's just great to see. He just had his shit squared down. Beat me by like 11 hours or something.
Wow.
And obviously only me and him completed it. Everyone else DNF'd. And that it just shows how hard it is. And there's been some fantastic, you know, some of the people there competing are, you know, people have come really high on absolute brutal races, but it's just the admin. You have to get so much right and be so good at so many different things. It's really hard to pull it all together. Because I wouldn't, you know, I'm not as good an athlete as a lot of people that were on that race, but my admin is very good. I'm
Your
very good in
self-motivation, your admin and your self-motivation, because we say it all the time, cold, wet, tired. How many blokes have you encountered along the way? Cold, wet, tired,
yeah.
the whole world crumbles. I think we've all been guilty of that at times. You're like, fuck this, and you just have that moment. But it's whether you pick yourself up or you become a casualty or you jack. It depends, doesn't it? And if you got that ability to carry on.
And it's one of those races where if you were going there to prove something, you have got no chance of doing it. Because if you were there and you're like, I'm a strong guy, I can do this, like you are going to get humbled to fuck. Like mentally, it was such a test. Like I wanted to quit so many times, but I knew why I was there. I was there to see how far I could go and to confirm for myself that I am who I think I am. And that's what I did. I didn't care about winning. I just wanted to finish. I ended up finishing really strong. I ended up finishing with 20 hours to spare, which was great. But I wasn't there to prove anything. I was there for myself. I just wanted to see what I could do, and that was it. If you went there, you had to have a flexible mindset, not a strong mindset to complete that race, because there were so many dark points, you know, really dark, that unless you are really screwed on up here, you are, and you know, you can't have an ego because you're going to get humbled. You're going to feel like shit. You're going to want to quit. And if you are thinking that you're all this or built different to other people and stuff like that, you're gonna get spat out the other side. And it was just one of those really good events and experiences where you realize that you've just got to be a humble, good human being to finish it. It's not about being a savage or being this or being that. Yeah, you know, it was about, I spent most of my time looking at amazing sunrises and coming out the mountains and appreciating the beauty. And you just got to have that mindset going into stuff like that
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it was minging.
How long did it take you from start to finish that?
Just under 9 days.
Yeah. So how
Yeah,
much sleep was you getting on a day?
I was doing sorry, did you say how much
Sleep.
sleep?
Yeah.
I averaged 3 hours a
Fuck.
night, and then the last 75K I just did it in a oneer. So I just did the last 24 hours. I just went just because I'd had enough by then and wanted to get it done. But I was covering, the minimum you have to cover is 30 miles a day.
So
But
more than a marathon, pulling a sledge on
yeah,
undulating terrain. You're up in the mountains, and it's
oh
obviously
yeah. It's, and then so you got to cover 30 miles a day minimum just to do the cut-offs. So I was doing more, and then in the last 24 hours, I was like, fuck this, I'm just gonna go, and just committed to the last 24 hours basically and got it done. But
eating a lot as
it's
well.
big distance, and I think that's what catches people out because people go on training courses and they learn how to look after yourself in the cold, and that's great and really important. But you try and do that when you're covering over 30 miles a day and be okay and have the mental capacity to still look after yourself. That's when it becomes really difficult. And then the sleep deprivation, being able to deal mentally with the sleep deprivation, which I'm very good at, but I practice it and I've done it a lot. But that is a skill that people, I think, downplay and don't do enough.
Yeah, probably overlooked.
Yeah,
Well,
because
it's something else I talk about a lot, Dan. And and I think the British Army gears people up really, really well because a lot of our training and stuff with militaries, well, not just the British Army, but militaries around the world, is built on sleep deprivation. Because I always
yeah,
say, and I liken it to newborn babies. When you've got a newborn baby, if they don't sleep, it's fine for a bit, but as soon as the sleep deprivation kicks in, and everything becomes a lot 10 times harder when you're tired, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, it's that cheerfulness in the face of adversity. I think you've really got to. I was pretty happy the whole time. I was really chipper. At every checkpoint, I had good chats with the race staff and the medical team, and they sent me a video yesterday, and I'm just like, you've got to be like that and stuff, because if you let it get you down, it's really going to get you down. It is uncomfortable, like it. And that's that simplicity piece. Like I was doing one thing. I was there just to move from A to B as best I can and to look after myself. And that's all I thought about. I saw some guys on their phone messaging people and stuff like that. I didn't get on my phone. I didn't talk to anyone. I just got on with it. Enjoyed all my different personalities that are then being created as I was moving across the ice. And yeah, just enjoyed 9 days of being on your own, which is rare, without tech, talking to people. And I don't think people get to experience that much these days. That amount of time just being on your own in the middle of buttfuck nowhere with nothing around. It's, lonely, but also I found it, empowering and great.
But a test in itself, being in
Exactly, a
your own,
massive.
being in your own head,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And, I've spoken about this a lot on other things, but I struggled with grief for a long time from losing my 4 friends in Afghan is one of my big issues. And a lot of it was to do with maybe it's a bit of control, but not being able to save people was was a big issue for me. I've never
Yeah.
had survivor's guilt or anything like that. It's always issues around me not being able to save my friends. And I realistically, I had no chance of saving them. It's just
Yeah.
in my mind, I thought I could. And I had to let that go. It was quite a while ago now, but it was part of me doing the work on myself. I had to reframe that as those guys will always be with me. I have parts of them in me, and that is what I now use to be able to do these events. Because when when I was having a bad time, I'd think, well, I'm here doing this, and they're not, but they were with me the whole time in some capacity. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've had to reframe that grief in order to, but it's enabled me to be able to do these great things. Or whether you say it's great, it's just me going and doing a race, but it's hard.
But
I
it's
wouldn't get
good.
through it if I hadn't have had that experience and I hadn't have reframed that grief. I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
absolutely. No, but that's the thing. And it's what drives you. It's a
Yeah, 100%.
it's a personal thing to you, and people have find their drive, their motivation in weird and wonderful places. But if that's what does it for you, is for the having those people with you, for the memory of those people, then
Exactly.
it's a good thing, and it's probably part of your recovery as well, Dan.
100% is, and I liken it, they're like, well, how did you keep going for that long? I'm like, well, I've got like 4 lads dragging the sled with me. That's what my mind's like. I'm like, I've got them powering through. Yeah, okay, physically it is just me, but not mentally it isn't. Mentally, I have the support of a load of amazing guys, and that's what I've had to do to be able to do the things I now do. Because in the mountains, for example, like I am shit at altitude. It's annoying because I love mountaineering, and it's hard. Like, it doesn't matter how fit you are. I'm fit, but altitude just makes me dip, And I've had some serious dark moments on the mountains, and it's the same thing. I'm still going, still there, still going, because I know I get to do these fantastic things and the lads we lost don't. And I'm not going to fucking moan about it. I'm gracious for it. I get to do all these things and they're fantastic. And
I
and
think
as a result, because I've managed to do all this, I then get to help people in a really great way because I've learned how to deal with things properly. So it's all win-win, really.
it's a really positive way of looking at it, and I think it's summed up quite nicely with your Instagram profile. That's like duty happy bloke, and I think
Yeah.
having talked to you on this podcast, you have this upbeat kind of happy persona that I think's really really refreshing. And
Yeah,
I,
thanks.
without I feel like I repeat myself on a lot of podcasts, but I always towards the end of the podcast I say I always try and take something away from every single guest I have on, because it's good. It's great for me. I get to talk to really interesting blokes that pass off all this information to me for
Of
free.
course, yeah.
And again, all the viewers get to see it as well of your mindset and how you go about. So I take away from this, but just smiling in the face of adversity and just generally being happy. I'm a bit like that anyway, Dan, but it's just been emphasized by yourself.
Yeah, and that's why. So I was given, so that duty happy bloke, I was given a patch by an American who's a miserable guy, and
Yeah,
he
I
had
read it.
it because he was the classic, like, dripped all the time.
Yeah.
And he said every day I come in off patrol, I was always like, we had some bad times, and I was still upbeat and positive. And one day, literally, I didn't even know him. He come over and he's like, I've been watching you for like months, and he gave me that patch. And he was like, you are actually someone that should have this. And I just had it. I had it on my arm for the whole tour, for the rest of the tour, and then I kept it ever since. And it was just one of those things that happened, where you're like, fair one, I'll take that.
But you
Bit of
don't. I don't think people realize how much that rubs off around other
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Because it only takes someone to look at you when they're shit and see you smiling happy, and it has
yeah,
it has an effect on everyone, and it's got, and
Yeah, I hope so.
that's a leadership quality as well, I believe, is like that fucking happiness in the face of adversity, you know.
Yeah, and it's why I retrained in positive psychology, and that's what I help people do. I mainly work with like CEOs and business owners and stuff like that now. I also work with, you know, like people that want to do a race like I've just done, because it's more important to train your like you can forget the physical training. There's no point doing it until you're all right, like mentally. You got to keep fit and stuff, but it's a more a mental test than it is. And I'm starting to work with more people with stuff like that, and it's just great. Like, and surrounding yourself with people that really want to improve is great for me as well. Like,
Yeah.
they're just great people. And you know, like you said, you meet good people all the time. You take something from, and it's the same for me with my clients. I take a lot from my clients. I learn enormous amount. You know, I don't know everything. I know how to be pretty happy in a shit time, but and I know how to help people to improve on that aspect so that they can go on to do awesome things. But okay, now I'm like, you know, I'm the same as everyone. I've fucked up loads and done loads of stupid stuff, and I'm not the smartest bloke on the planet, like at all. You know, so it's the same all learning for me, and this is why I do podcasts, and I like to meet people all the time. Exactly the same reason. I know a lot of guys don't like talking to, like, some guys do, some guys don't. But for me, it's always worked for me talking to people. You know, it's always worked for me getting out, going for a run. If I'm feeling shit, I go out and go for a run. I always feel better. If I pick up the phone and talk to someone, if I'm having a bad day, or, you know, I just talk to someone I was talking to someone in the street earlier, you know, and they were fantastic. And it was complete random chance. You just don't like, I've just always found that being forward, talking to people, being genuinely nice, saying good morning makes a massive difference to me.
Yeah.
Always
No.
has.
We're social animals, Dan. You know, we're meant,
Exactly.
we are. And sadly, the way the world is now, people are becoming more and more isolated because of the way that the world is. You don't have to leave the house. And we are. So we need that. I certainly, again, I need that social. I've been in social environments and worked in teams my whole adult life since sort of 17 years of age, you know, up until recently where I do what I do now and I work from home. And that has been a little bit, I have to make that designated effort to get
Yeah.
out and socialize and do stuff. Otherwise, it has a negative effect on my mental health because we're meant to be social. We're meant to be out there. And I say it all the time, be nice to people. I've got it on my kitchen wall which says, in a world where you can be anything, be nice. Because it's not different. People get this so wrong. And don't get me wrong. I think we're all guilty of at times where we go into ourselves and we're not in a great mood, and we can take it out on other people. We're only human. But my outlook, very similar to yours, is just be a nice person. Help people. People will help you. Good things come to people that help others and are generally a nice person. And as I say, I've got it tattooed on my knuckles. Don't be a cunt, right? It's quite simple. Don't be a cunt. Just be a good person. Dead easy, innit, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. We're all trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So before we finish off, mate, what have you got coming up? Have you already thought about what next crazy thing you can do to test yourself? I don't know where you go from the Alpine Spine race, mate, to be fair, but where do you go?
Work. So I've
Right.
opened my new office in I've moved to Chester to train more in the mountains, and, you know, I like it up here. Got a new office, new clinic. People come in and, you know, we talk. I've got a podcast starting as well, which is about inspirational stories and I'm trying to similar to you, trying to interview people. Mine's not particularly military orientated. Mine's to do with therapy and mountaineering, running, all the things that I do. And more like relatable stories that people can actually take something from, not just billionaires and
Yeah.
that type of thing. So I'm setting that up. Events wise, I don't know. Like you said, like where do I go from that? I might do it again one day. I might. I feel like now I've done it once. I feel like I could go a hell of a lot quicker. I've learned a lot off doing it once. Maybe I would like to go again. I think, which I wasn't saying that when I finished.
Wasn't saying that halfway round either, I bet.
Nah. And then I've got some mountain goals that I want to do in the next couple of years, but I need to go on a trip and do a recce. I've already been to this mountain once. I've already summited once, but I need to go back again, do another recce, and then I'll want to go and try and do it in winter. So it's Denali, so Mount McKinley, highest summit in North America. I've done it once already, but I would like to do it in winter, which is super dangerous. Only 16 people have ever done it. So it's one of them, but for me, that's like I'm playing to my strengths again. I'm quite good in the cold. I'm good at it's super heavy. You're carrying silly weight. But for me, that's like it's one of like the pinnacle of alpine. Like there's a reason no one does it because it's hard.
Right.
So I'd really like to do that in the future, but we'll have to see how it goes and get funding and sponsors and stuff like that. But
Oh, Roger Dodge me. Well, look, it's been
someone's got to
absolutely.
do it.
Someone's saying, why not? It's there. Always about that question is, why are you doing that? Because it's fucking there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing mountain as well, and there'd be no one there. Like
Perfect.
because no one tries it.
Because it's that difficult. No, fair play, buddy. Fair play. Well, look, Dan.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it as well. It was really nice to chat.
No, look, the pleasure's all mine, buddy. It's like really nice to kind of firstly for sharing your story. And it is one hell of a story. And like I say, to take away the positive, not only of your general positivity, but of your kind of the positive stuff that's come out of struggling with PTSD on the road to rebuilding yourself, recreating yourself, and then kind of doing what you've done that's not for the faint-hearted. So look, thank you very much for coming on and sharing, Dan. Hopefully you'll stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll keep track of future endeavors. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks, mate.
No dramas, mate. Thank you.